Today's conversation is on being as you are, or as I say sometimes, being as I am. And I would like to relate this over to certainty and uncertainty. We're actually in Cozumel, Mexico right now. I wasn't planning on recording this video while I was on vacation. I was planning on recording Sunday's video, which this is Sunday's video, tomorrow, which would be Sunday, today's Saturday, while I was in Toronto. But actually, I will be flying to Toronto tomorrow. So I thought of recording this today rather than tomorrow morning. And the reason why I'm flying tomorrow is there's been some change in my travel plans due to Tropical Storm Nadine. So here we are, as if it wasn't for, we could say, the uncertainty in my travel plans, I wouldn't have the certain thought, thinking in a certain way, as Wallace Wattles describes, as we discussed in Thursday's video, which I'll link to in the description, during uncertainty, which inspired this conversation of relating certainty and uncertainty to being as you are, being as I am. Have you noticed that during moments of being as you are, accepting yourself unconditionally, unconditional self-acceptance as you are, clarity arises. We can say certainty arises. Have you also noticed that in moments which we can call uncertainty, as you remain as you are, certainty arises. You begin to think in a certain way and act in a certain way, as Wallace Wattles describes in Science of Getting Rich, which means acting from conviction, knowing with certainty that reality is rigged in your favor, which also happens to be in harmony with all, in a way which we can say is very mysterious. Because I feel that this is a beneficial conversation to have with you. Yet, if it wasn't for that moment of uncertainty this morning about travel plans, we would not have this opportunity which presented itself to discuss the value of uncertainty. So I value certainty and I also value uncertainty. Let's talk about uncertainty. I've been an entrepreneur for many years, since 2009. I have found that in moments of uncertainty, what we can call uncertainty, as I embrace the uncertainty, as I remain as I am, as I accept the uncertainty, I begin to think in a certain way. And I also noticed that I would behave, I would act in a certain way, acting with conviction, thinking from the premise of fulfilled desire, thinking from the premise of already having what I desire. I started to act in a certain way. And practically speaking, I would know what moves to make. The vision, let's say in the earlier stages, was to build my IT business to success. That was the vision. I wrote it down on my definite chief aim card. Now, in moments of uncertainty, moments we can call uncertainty, by simply accepting myself and accepting reality as whole, complete, which we can do at any moment by being still. The simple act of stillness. A thought would arise in mind, a particular idea would arise in mind, and that idea would transform my business in a favorable way. It arose during moments of uncertainty. So I could have, you could say, become identified with old man thinking. I could have, we could say, in those moments of uncertainty, become identified with the old man thinking. The old man thinking, as referred to in the Bible, the old man thinks in terms of separation from the fact that I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. which is an illusion. As I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, I am fulfilled even in moments where I could call it uncertainty. You are fulfilled. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, even in moments where you could call those moments uncertainty. And sure enough, as you accept yourself, clarity arises. And also, as mentioned, thinking and acting in a certain way, you may notice that you naturally do something or you clearly know what to do next. So this has actually happened during a number of conversations I had during sales presentations while I was building my IT business. There were moments where it didn't appear like they wanted to move forward with the deal. And so we could say those were moments of uncertainty. I went into the presentation with certainty. I was certain in the moment. I was thinking in a certain way. I was acting in a certain way. Yet during the presentation, I would think that there was this uncertainty in the air, or it felt emotionally like uncertainty. So what did I do? I did nothing for a moment. And by do nothing, it means simply accept myself, simply accept what is happening. True self-acceptance. And then all of a sudden, something appeared in my mind, a thought of what I could say to them. So I said it, and the deals ended up moving forward. They said, you know what? I see exactly what you're referring to right now, and we see how this can be beneficial for us. We're going to move forward with this. That was thinking in a certain way, which resulted in me speaking in a certain way, acting in a certain way. What I also noticed was by being still in the moment, by allowing space, some space, from that stillness, from that space, they said something all of a sudden. They seemed to have changed their mind, or we could say they found the clarity, and we moved forward with the deal. So we could see how, and I've seen this happen many times in entrepreneurship, we could see how there is certainty in uncertainty. And we experience this certainty during moments which we can call uncertainty by being as we are. See, who you are truly is not the old man. The old man thinks in terms of separation, which is not you. You think from the premise of fulfilled desire. Now, we may be presented with opportunities to practice this at any moment. I woke up this morning and I didn't know that there was going to be some changes in my travel plans, as mentioned earlier. I thought I was going to fly out, sleep in tomorrow a little bit, wake up, record the video, get it ready to be released, and that was the plan. That was, we could say, a certain plan. Yet, travel plans changed. And in the moments of stillness, I noticed this. The ideas would arise in mind. Okay, do this step, check this flight, drop off the rental, etc. A bunch of sequential steps would happen as I would remain as I am. Clarity would arise, and I would think and act in a certain way. Now, you and I are no different. I trust you've done this before. This has happened to you many times. This conversation is a conversation about encouraging you to be as you are. We can say we can always be more as I am, be more as we are. And from there, everything happens to be in our favor, even in moments which we can call uncertainty. So those moments where we could say there's uncertainty for the entrepreneur, for example, those are opportunity points. I've seen ideas arise to be in my favor, such as the ones that I've shared as an example. I've also seen things change on their own in a way that ends up being in my favor. One could even say there are other things that could have played out that were not in our favor, since this conversation is about us and also to be in your benefit, would be in our favor if I actually ended up catching that flight today and recording another video tomorrow. So I wanted to actually, back in the days, talk about uncertainty and certainty. And so now we see a perfect opportunity that was presented where I could reflect on a number of series of events that happened up until this point with you, to engage in this conversation with you in a way that is mutually beneficial. Why do I say mutually beneficial? Because A, this is an auto-suggestion. It reminds me to value uncertainty more so. And also, it is a benefit to you because you may find some relatability to experiences in relation to uncertainty. I have found that there's enormous benefit in valuing uncertainty. And the easiest way that I found to value uncertainty is in moments of uncertainty to allow the emotions, which we could label as uncertainty, to be released, to not identify with the untrue thinking patterns, illusions of separation-based thinking patterns, which belong to the old man, which is not you, and then allow that clarity to arise, which again could be particular thinking patterns of what to do, which again I relate over to thinking and acting in a certain way, which is from a place of certainty. Certainty. What is more certain than the fact that you exist now, and that existence itself, the fact that you exist, is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. It means you lack nothing. If a person lacks nothing, then moments of uncertainty, they find it is easier to transmute over to certainty, from which they then act in a certain way, think in a certain way, could be one or another, a combination. So just as we value certainty, we can also value moments of uncertainty. What I find too is that as I value these moments of uncertainty and I experience certainty in these moments of uncertainty, I'm able to think and act in a certain way more so each day with increasing frequency on a continuous basis. And I trust that you have been noticing that your level of certainty has been increasing more so each day as you think and act in a certain way. So I know that I have been referencing the science of getting rich a lot in today's video. I recommend watching the video we did recently on it. To add more context to this video, I'll link in the description to it, as well as the video that I released on Thursday. That one, we actually spoke about relationships, thinking and acting in a certain way with respect to relationships. I trust you'll find that to be beneficial. I'll link in the description to it. Now, another way I relate to this is a harmonious relationship between physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And by that I mean specifically spiritual. I am whole, complete, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, as mentioned, for no reason at all. The fact that you exist, existence is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. From this sure foundation, even in moments of uncertainty, we can acknowledge the spiritual truth by being still. And then we have mental clarity, which arises from that naturally. So we begin to then think in a certain way. We also start to emotionally relate to the experiences. So we understand the people, environment, circumstance, and information clearly. And we emotionally relate harmoniously. Physically, we notice that body moves naturally, or we could say automatically, or as I say, ideally automatically. And all of this is congruent. You notice it. This is also what we discussed in the Flow video recently, where we discussed the book Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi as being autotelic. Being autotelic. When you're autotelic, you naturally flow. Your body language, what you do, naturally flows. Emotionally regulated, thinking clearly, thinking as applicable, not overthinking. And you operate naturally from the spiritual foundation, the sure foundation. And why this is helpful in relation to uncertainty is, in moments of uncertainty, a person may think they lack something. A person may think they lack clarity in that moment. It could appear that way if a person is identified with particular thinking patterns, which is them not really thinking. That's old man thinking. We could say it appears that way if identified with old man thinking, which suggests lacking something, lacking clarity. Yet, that is not really thinking, as you really thinking is thinking from the premise of being as you are. Whole, complete, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And knowing that you are fulfilled, clarity arises. Like, for example, in moments of uncertainty, a person may think they don't know what to do. And that's a problem. They might think, I don't know how I'm going to figure out what to do in this situation. And that may result in emotions which we can say emotional turmoil. And that's okay. We can allow those emotions to be released. Not think. Maybe go for a little walk if you find that to be helpful. A bit of a meditation. And then a clear thought arises in mind. Clarity arises. The person knows what to do. They may end up automatically doing it. They may get an idea. They may get an insight, a perspective. That is them really thinking. So that is what I mean by it's an illusion to think that you lack clarity. We could say the old man lacks clarity, but that's not you. Lack of clarity belongs to the old man. You really think for yourself. We have an opportunity to realize this, what I'm talking about here, during moments of uncertainty. It was through the repetition of, and not just in entrepreneurship, in relationships, in all areas of life, moments of uncertainty, of practicing what we're talking about here, again, again, and again. taking those opportunities of uncertainty to practice this, that I found that it became easier to experience my true nature, which is certainty. Even in moments where perhaps they appear to be uncertain moments. Because who labels them as uncertain? And there are moments where sometimes it could be really challenging. And that's okay. I find that the more I take these opportunities to apply this, exactly what I'm talking about here, which is essentially being as you are during uncertainty, the easier it is to remain as I am. And we find that the more we remain as we are, the more magnetic we are, the more natural we flow. Behaviors flow naturally. We could say authentic way of being. Emotions are regulated. Clear thinking. So one could say it is easier to be as you are in situations where there's a lot of certainty. Yet, I have found in my life that there has been many moments of uncertainty. And then when I started to see them as an opportunity to practice experiencing certainty during those moments of uncertainty, I started to notice that situations where I would once experience a lot of uncertainty in, like in business, in relation to teams, in relation to sales, in relation to different initiatives in the business, and also personal relationships, etc. It became easier for me to be certain in those areas. And thus, easier for me to remain as I am. The reality is you always are as you are. It's identification to the old man, where it appears as confusing thinking in mind, emotions not being regulated, convoluted behaviors, not naturally flowing. We simply release that identification in the moment, in moments of uncertainty. Consider that moments of uncertainty are opportunities to think and act in a certain way. And every time we take one of those opportunities, like a muscle, it gets stronger. It gets easier. I never saw a video like this on the internet when I was learning this, articulated this way about certainty and uncertainty, and even in relation to the science of getting rich by Wallace Wattles, acting in a certain way, thinking in a certain way. I discovered this, what I'm talking about here, through the repetition. And I practiced it over the years. And then I said, you know what? At a particular point, I would like to talk about this. Because then I would have a lot of reference experience so that when I articulate it, I would capture those nuances in it. So the opportunity presented itself today to engage in this conversation with you through a moment of uncertainty. So I'll be flying out a couple hours after this video will be released tomorrow afternoon. I trust you found it to be beneficial. Let's conclude it with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, being as I am, authentic being, I think and act in a certain way. Even in moments that appear as uncertain, I can discover that my true way of being is certain, from the premise of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and clarity. from which clear thinking arises, body appears to flow as natural expression of being the way I am.